Though the increasing use of the term corporate governance in everyday usage has become evident in the past few decades, the theories that set the framework for reviewing the development of corporate governance date much earlier and are not limited to specific discipline area. Instead, a variety of discipline areas are relevant to the study of corporate governance, and a number of different theoretical approaches have been developed in an attempt to assess and review the term. In this manual, two of the most widely used and influential theoretical approaches will be reviewed, allowing for a more thorough analysis framework to be developed. Historically, Adam Smith, 1776, was one of the first to raise the principal-agent issue or agency dilemma when he commented that the directors of companies, being managers of other people's money, cannot be expected to watch over it with the same vigilance with which they watch over their own. In this case, the people that have the money are the principals, and they contract the directors, which act as agents to manage their own affairs, thus a distinction emerging between ownership and control. Burley and Means, 1932, in their influential work, The Modern Corporation and Private Property, reiterated the agency dilemma when they noted that those who legally had ownership over companies had been separated from their control, thus raising the principal-agent problem for corporations. The separation of ownership from control is the core of the agency problems faced by the firms. According to the agency theory, the key concern of whether the agent will be as vigilant as the principal in managing his money/investment has necessitated of the study of corporate governance and highlighted its importance in attempting to manage this problem. In the case of corporations, the theory views corporate governance mechanisms, especially the board of directors, as being an essential monitoring device that seeks to minimize any adverse effects or problems that may arise because of the principal-agent relationship. Furthermore, the principal-agent problem has become more complicated over the years as the ownership structures of corporations have become more complex. Therefore, in trying to offer a definition for agency theory, one can note that it primarily identifies the agency relationship where one party, the principal, delegates work to another party, the agent, and highlights the problems this delegation of work may cause. The key feature of agency theory is the separation of ownership and control. Figure 1.1 illustrates the distinction between the principal and the agent, where the latter is required to perform the task assigned by the former. In return, the agent is accountable to the principal as to whether the task has been met, for example, the performance of the organization. Figure 1.1, the principal-agent relation. Accountability is considered to be the requirement of an individual or entity that has been assigned a position of responsibility with authority to account for the exercise of that authority. In defining corporate accountability, one may opt either for a narrow or a broad definition. Narrow definitions, more relevant to the agency theory, are orientated around corporate accountability to shareholders, principal, and highlight that the governance mechanism must secure that those supplying the finance should maximize the return on their investment. Emphasis is placed on processes, policies, laws, and accepted ways of doing business, and how these affect the way a firm is controlled. Broader definitions, on the other hand, apply a more ethical dimension of governance and highlight the role of a wider group of stakeholders, considering that companies are accountable to the whole of society. future generations, and the environment. The traditional neoclassical view of the firm, with its focus on shareholder value, ignores the company's broader role in society and can be argued to have led to increased instability in the global economy and its stock markets, ultimately to the detriment of shareholders as well and the economy as a whole. In recent years, focus has been increasingly placed on a wider range of stakeholders, taking into account a larger group of constituents rather than focusing solely on shareholders. This has been reflected in recent reforms and recommendations that call for a broader approach to corporate governance where shareholders' primacy is balanced with an approach that incorporates multiple stakeholders' expectations. Moreover, neglecting the interests of other stakeholders can hamper financial performance and leave the organization exposed to social criticism and stakeholder rejection. In defining stakeholders, one refers to all persons, groups, or organizations that have an impact on the company's activity and/or are influenced by the company's activities. This group might include the owners, shareholders, investors, employees, customers, suppliers, business partners, competitors, national and local government, NGOs, pressure groups, communities, media, and so on. Each of these parts somehow interacts and influences a company's business, where there is an emphasis on stakeholders as opposed to merely focusing shareholders, and how the various, if not conflicting, interests should be taken into account. This will be reflected in the governance structure of the company. For example, if the firm wishes to opt for a stakeholder approach, this can be achieved via the direct representation on the board of directors of stakeholder groups, employers' representatives being one of them.